Three North County school districts trying to reopen get bad news from the state. Why their waivers for in-person learning were rejected.
Plus, the COVID relief bill is expected to pass by the end of the week. How that money could make it in the hands of San Diegans still struggling through the pandemic.
And this week marks the one-year anniversary of pandemic lockdowns in San Diego. Doctors and nurses who have been on the front lines of health care and grief share their experiences over the past year.
ABC 10 News at 6 starts now.
Several North County school districts hit a wall in their effort to bring students and teachers back to the classroom. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Three different districts had their waivers to partially reopen rejected by the state. As ABC 10 News reporter Rachel Bianco shows us, parents and superintendents say they were blindsided.
Classrooms across middle and high schools will remain mostly empty in the Carlsbad Unified, Poway Unified, and San Diego Union High School districts. Parents thought their kids would be returning to in-person learning for the first time in nearly a year, only to learn late Sunday night the state had rejected their waivers to reopen.
Parents this morning are despondent.
Allison Stratton's son is a junior at Torrey Pines. He spoke at this open schools rally held over the weekend. Stratton was confident the district's 1 day a week return to in-person instruction set for today would happen.
I was stunned. I was shocked. I honestly felt like this was going to be a rubber stamp approval.
Superintendents share that shock. The county health department approved each district's plan to reopen while still in the most restrictive purple tier.
Governor Newsom said he wanted schools to open. He's put out guidance. We can meet all of that guidance. We can meet all of the requirements. Our public health officer, Dr. Wooten, said, we're ready. We can do this. And then he says no.
They gave a whole list of specific reasons that had never been part of any reopening requirement.
District leaders say one of the reasons stated schools could only open with a ratio of 1 teacher per 15 students. School leaders say that is not possible when students have multiple subjects. Parents are pleading with the governor to meet with them.
We want to give him firsthand accounts of how our children are suffering.
All three districts are represented in a lawsuit against the state. It is set to be heard by a judge Wednesday. Rachel Bianco, ABC 10 News.
And this afternoon, Carlsbad superintendent announced because of a variance in state guidelines, 6th graders are allowed to return for a hybrid model of in-person instruction starting tomorrow. Right now, the board of Sweetwater Union High School District is discussing its next steps towards a return to campus. At its meeting tonight, the board will vote on whether to approve a memorandum of understanding with the teachers union. It's a sign that teachers and the district will work together to implement a safe reopening plan. The district is aiming for a partial return to in-person learning by April 12th.
San Diego County's 14-day rolling average for positive COVID cases is now sitting just above 3%. This is about where it was in early November, just before cases started to surge. There were more than 300 new cases reported today. Our local total since the pandemic began is now more than 263,000. And is typical on a Monday. There were no new deaths reported. Nearly 3,400 San Diegans have died from the virus. For many, spring break has begun, and several places around the country are already seeing a spike in tourism. Here in San Diego, hotel occupancy is up compared to last year when virtually no rooms were booked. A local hospitality agent says that many of the current bookings are being made by older people, and it has to do with vaccine eligibility.
Well, the vaccine is a huge jumpstart for tourism because at least the first 10 to 15% who have received both shots, they are starting to travel.
Hotel experts say during spring break 2019, hotels were running at 100% capacity at around $200 a room. Last year, those numbers were near zero. This year, they're projecting hotels will be at 70% capacity at around $100 a room.
The House is expected to vote tomorrow on that $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill passed by the Senate over the weekend. The House now has already passed its own version, but since the Senate made some changes, it now needs House approval once again before going to the president. That bill includes $1,400 checks for people making up to $75,000 a year. It also includes $300 a week jobless benefits through the summer. President Biden says once he signs it, stimulus checks will go out within a month. Nearly $1 billion in stimulus money could be flowing into San Diego County as part of that new package. Our ABC 10 News reporter John Horn explains how that money could reach those trying to make it during the pandemic.
Joe Paraiso opened La Mesa's Brew Coffee to bring craft coffee to East County. It quickly became more than that.
We've had a lot of success with local comedians and musicians, painters.
All of those community events on pause due to the outbreak. Sales hover between 40% and 50% of pre-pandemic levels. One reason Paraiso spoke publicly last month in favor of the county prioritizing grants to small businesses should a new round of stimulus come in.
If it happens, great. We don't want to get our hopes up, but we do like the possibility that we can get more help.
And it appears more likely that help is on the way. The proposed stimulus package out of the Senate and onto the House will send $40 billion to state and local governments in California. County Board Chair Nathan Fletcher says, for example, the county would likely use a chunk of the money to aid in vaccine distribution and pandemic response, such as PPE and testing.
And then we look and see where are the areas of greatest need in the community that are not covered by other programs, and where do we think we could be most effective in stepping in to help.
Fletcher says in the first round of stimulus, the money went to adapting to the pandemic, such as funding internet connectivity, child welfare visits, and behavioral health. He says now that the region is in recovery, they could focus more on helping to open back up. John Horn, ABC 10 News.
Senator Alex Padilla's office expects the county to receive $647 million of stimulus funds and the city of San Diego to receive $306 million.
The North County Transit District is offering a free shuttle to the Del Mar Fairgrounds Vaccination Superstation. It runs 7 days a week from the Solana Beach train station. Last month, the North County Transit District and MTS partnered to give people free rides to and from their appointments. They will continue for all San Diegans traveling to other county vaccination stations as well as hospitals.
Nursing homes have seen their COVID cases drop by nearly 100%. Now, advocates and families want the state to reopen those with those in-room visits. According to our partners at KPBS, advocates say the ban on visiting nursing home residents has seen their physical and emotional well-being drop. They say complaints about abuse and neglect have skyrocketed since the pandemic began.
Family members are reporting that their loved ones are dying of dehydration, of malnutrition, of not being attended to physically so that they avoid bed sores, kidney infections, and the like.
Families say before the ban on visits, they would help feed and bathe their loved ones. Today, the California Department of Public Health says it is now finalizing adjustments to nursing home visitation policies. And you can track the latest coronavirus developments from vaccines to reopening guidance with the ABC 10 News app. You can find it for free in the App Store.
A Marine was killed in a traffic accident on Camp Pendleton this weekend. The military called it a traffic incident and says that it happened yesterday about 5 o'clock on Las Pulgas Road. In addition to the Marine who was killed, 2 others were hurt. The names of the Marines involved and the circumstances of the accident are not being released at this time.
Early voting is underway for the special election to fill Dr. Shirley Weber's Assembly seat. Weber, of course, left the position to become California's Secretary of State. 5 candidates, including Weber's daughter, are vying to replace her. Mail-in ballots have been sent out, and people in the 79th District can also vote early at the registrar's office. The election is set for April 6th.
Overall, crime in the city of San Diego was down more than 8% last year. San Diego police released new numbers today. Property crimes were down more than 10%. Rapes were down 13.5%. Violent crimes were up a bit, led by an increase in murders and aggravated assaults. The police department says crime trends in San Diego are consistent with other major U.S. cities.
A pilot program to help people experience a mental health crisis in the North County may expand to the rest of the county by summer. Today, county leaders talked about the success they have seen with their mobile crisis response team.
The team and the pilot are basically a mental health clinician, a case management, and a trained peer support specialist. And when called, The mobile crisis response team goes to that individual needing care, and the teams are trained for crisis intervention. They arrive on site, they assess a person's condition, spend time with that individual.
The crisis response team is meant to replace police officers on psychiatric calls that don't involve threats of violence. And as part of our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion in our community, ABC 10 News is bringing you an eye-opening special on the hidden bias of good people. We're going to look at the unconscious attitudes and stereotypes that we make and how we can change for the better. It airs tomorrow at 8 p.m., followed by a live roundtable at 9 on our ABC 10 News Facebook page, where you can join the conversation and ask your questions.